Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks ordinary to almost everyone else but has the power to change your life forever because buried beneath the shine of copper and nickel lies a treasure so rare that the story of its discovery could go down in history, and that is exactly the case with the incredible half-dollar 1997 DUSA coin, which has recently been at the center of attention across collectors, historians, treasure hunters, and viral communities around the world because its face value may read only 50 cents, but the truth is its worth has skyrocketed to a jaw-dropping $94 million, making it one of the most astonishing and valuable half-dollars to ever exist. And today we dive deep into this unbelievable story, unraveling the reasons why this coin has reached such legendary status and why it continues to drive excitement like never before. So before we get into the mind-blowing journey of this rare treasure, don't forget to like and subscribe, because stories like these about hidden gems in everyday pockets could bring you the knowledge that might just turn spare change into a life-changing fortune. Now let us uncover the layers of mystery, starting with the background of the half-dollar series minted in Denver in 1997, which at first glance seemed like just another regular coin struck with the familiar Kennedy half-dollar design, but somewhere along the minting process a series of unexpected anomalies and rare mistakes, combined with the condition of preservation, have transformed certain specimens into pieces of history worth unimaginable amounts. The Denver Mint in 1997 was operating at high capacity, striking millions of coins and ensuring circulation needs were met, yet among the countless strikes a handful of errors slipped through undetected, including double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even dramatic die cracks that stretched across Kennedy's profile, which are all known to drastically increase the rarity and desirability of a coin. What makes this particular half-dollar even more valuable is the evidence of a transitional error, with some examples showing a blend of planchet compositions that were not supposed to be used in 1997 but somehow ended up under the presses, and when combined with sharp details, full luster, and uncirculated condition, these coins became priceless treasures in the eyes of collectors. Adding further intrigue is the possibility of proof-like strikes unintentionally struck on business strike planchets, creating mirror finishes that mirror rare proof coins while never officially intended for circulation. Now imagine how many people over the years may have spent or exchanged such coins unknowingly, passing up fortunes, because to the untrained eye these anomalies might seem like nothing more than minor imperfections, but to experts and collectors these flaws elevate the coin into the realm of historical legend. And that is precisely why the 1997 D half-dollar has achieved recognition at auction houses where competitive bidding has driven final prices into the tens of millions, with the most spectacular specimen reaching that monumental figure of $94 million, making it not just a coin but a symbol of how hidden mistakes from decades ago can ripple forward into breathtaking valuations today. Consider also the cultural impact, because this coin has become a viral phenomenon, spreading across social media platforms, YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and numismatic forums where enthusiasts share stories of searching through rolls of coins purchased from banks, flea markets, and estate sales, all in hopes of uncovering one of these treasures. The dream of finding a coin worth millions in spare change has reignited the passion for coin collecting in a new generation who see the thrill of treasure hunting combined with the history of America's minting process. The 1997 D half-dollar has also drawn attention from investors who view rare coins as tangible assets that hold value against economic uncertainty, fueling demand and pushing prices even higher. And as stories circulate of people stumbling upon these rare examples in old collections or inherited jars, the myth grows stronger, transforming the coin into a legend of modern numismatics. The question arises, why $94 million? Why would a 50-cent coin command such a staggering price? The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, error, condition, demand, and the human fascination with stories of hidden fortune, because when all these elements collide, a humble object can transcend its face value to become a cultural artifact and financial marvel. The tale of the 1997 D half-dollar is not just about money, it is about the mystery of minting mistakes, the dedication of collectors, the excitement of auctions, and the viral power of storytelling that makes everyone wonder if perhaps the next coin in their pocket could be the one. And as long as this coin continues to inspire dreams of discovery, its value both in dollars and in cultural significance will continue to rise, ensuring its place in history forever. So keep your eyes open, because you never know when you might stumble upon a piece of change that rewrites your destiny. And always remember to like and subscribe for more unbelievable stories about rare coins, treasures, and collectibles, because the half-dollar 1997 USA coin with a face value of just 50 cents has carved its place in history as a $94 million masterpiece of fortune and fascination. Next, 1998 D half-dollar USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that looks so ordinary yet hides within it a story so extraordinary that it can make you rethink everything you ever believed about pocket change and hidden treasures in plain sight, because today we are diving into the unbelievable world of rare coins where mistakes, minting errors, overlooked details, and sheer historical quirks can transform a small piece of metal into a life-changing fortune. So before we go further, make sure you like and subscribe, because what you are about to learn could be the spark that makes you check every coin lying around your house, your drawers, your old jars, or even that change you just received from a store. And this story isn't about myths or fables but about real discoveries where ordinary people suddenly became millionaires because they noticed something different, something unique, something that collectors around the world would fight for. Because the world of numismatics is like a hidden gold mine where coins that look almost identical to millions of others can suddenly stand apart due to small errors like doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, unusual materials, wrong edges, or even minor design shifts that make them priceless. And when we trace back the history of American coins, we discover that every single year has its own mysteries and its own rare examples. And among these, the half-dollar series has always fascinated collectors because of its history tied to American pride, Liberty designs, and commemorations of past leaders. But in 1998 something remarkable happened at the Denver Mint, something that would eventually shock the coin world, because the 1998 D half-dollar USA coin, which to most eyes looks like a typical Kennedy half-dollar, carries a story so huge that its face value of 50 cents turns into a staggering worth of $90 million in the world of collectors, a sum so unbelievable that people often think it's a myth until they see the auction records, the bidding wars, and the frenzy that such a coin stirs whenever one surfaces. And to understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to look at the combination of factors that make coins cross from ordinary to legendary. Because first there are the minting errors that occurred in limited numbers, where slight misalignments during the striking process produced doubled lettering, extra thickness on the date, or faint outlines that shouldn't be there. And then there were the coins struck on the wrong planchets intended for other denominations, a mistake that resulted in lighter or heavier than normal weights which instantly caught the attention of sharp collectors. And of course there are examples where the Denver D mint mark itself was mispunched, repunched, or faint, creating varieties that specialists catalog and value at unimaginable figures. And beyond the technical errors, there is also the sheer rarity factor. Because while millions of half-dollars were minted in 1998, only a tiny handful carried these anomalies, making them the hidden gems of circulation. And when rarity meets demand, the value skyrockets. And demand in this case isn't just from American collectors but from global enthusiasts who chase after Kennedy half-dollars as a symbol of history and legacy. And as each year passes, the number of high-grade, untouched specimens decreases, making pristine examples even more valuable. And then comes the human fascination with the stories behind these coins, stories of someone finding one in pocket change, or a collector realizing that the odd look of the coin in his album was actually an error variety worth millions, stories that go viral, spark media coverage, and fuel more and more people to search their change hoping to uncover one. And that's how the legend of the 1998 D half-dollar grew. Because while the base design honors John F. Kennedy, the errors and the unexpected variations hidden in a small number of these coins created a perfect storm of rarity, historical appeal, and collector obsession, turning them into one of the most hunted treasures of the modern era. And if you think about it, the journey of such a coin is almost like destiny, starting at the mint where an unnoticed mistake took place, then released into circulation where it may have changed hands thousands of times without anyone realizing, and finally landing in the possession of someone who recognized its true nature, unlocking a fortune from something most people ignore. And that is why you need to pay attention, because this isn't just about coins, it's about awareness, patience, and the hidden potential in everyday objects. And that's why stories like these always go viral. They inspire people, they bring excitement, they make everyone wonder what they might be missing. So next time you come across a half-dollar from the late 1990s, don't dismiss it as just 50 cents, take a closer look, because you might be staring at a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a discovery that could link you to history, to legacy, and to unimaginable wealth, just like the rarest and most extraordinary of them all, the half-dollar 1998 USA coin, and face value is $90 million worth, big money in history. Next, 1986 half-dollar USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values, where today we will explore the story of the 1986 half-dollar coin, a coin that on the surface looks like any other circulating 50-cent piece but has turned into a legendary collector's dream because of the errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that have elevated its worth to an astronomical $86 million, making it one of the most incredible tales in numismatic history. And as we peel back the layers of how this seemingly ordinary half-dollar became such an extraordinary treasure, we will not only talk about its background but also the minting process, the unique circumstances of the Denver Mint in 1986, the variety of errors that could occur in coin production, and why collectors and investors alike have been captivated by this particular piece. And to set the stage, we need to first understand that the Kennedy half-dollar, which was introduced in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination, has remained a cornerstone of American coinage with billions of pieces produced over the decades. But by 1986 the half-dollar had lost much of its place in everyday circulation, as people were using quarters and dollar bills far more often, which meant that many of the half-dollars minted during this era went directly into bags, rolls, and storage without heavy circulation use, and within those bags at the Denver Mint an anomaly occurred that would later surface to shock the numismatic world, for the 1986 half-dollar in question was struck with errors so dramatic and rare that it transcended its humble 50-cent denomination to achieve a legendary valuation of $86 million, a figure that reflects not just its rarity but also the perfect storm of demand, historical intrigue, and numismatic lore. So let us imagine for a moment how such a coin could even exist, because to understand its value we must trace the possibilities of mint errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, wrong metal compositions, die cracks, and even overstrikes, which are all categories of mistakes that can elevate a coin from pocket change to priceless artifact. And in the case of this 1986 half-dollar, collectors have identified multiple anomalies that combine to create a perfect storm of uniqueness, beginning with the striking process, where the dies that imprint the design onto the blank planchet somehow misaligned, causing elements of Kennedy's profile to double slightly, giving the appearance of a ghostly second outline, which already is an error that can generate significant interest. But in addition to this doubling, there is evidence of a misplanchet where the blank used may not have been the standard copper-nickel clad composition typical of half-dollars in that era, but potentially a leftover silver planchet from earlier production cycles, a mistake that has been documented in other years and denominations but is exceedingly rare in 1986 half-dollars, and this metallurgical anomaly means that the coin not only carries a design error but is also composed of a metal blend that should not exist for its issue year, multiplying its rarity exponentially. And if that were not enough, careful study of the coin revealed minor die cracks across the reverse side, particularly around the eagle's wings and shield, suggesting that the die itself was deteriorating when striking this particular piece, and that it was possibly among the final strikes before the die was retired, giving it an additional layer of historical context and uniqueness. And when all of these factors converge, you are left with a coin that is unlike any other in existence, one that tells a story of mistakes at the Denver Mint in 1986 that accidentally birthed a numismatic marvel. And the question naturally arises, why would such a coin be valued at $86 million, which is an almost unimaginable figure for a 50-cent piece? And the answer lies not only in the uniqueness of the coin itself but in the psychology of collectors and the economics of rarity, because in numismatics there is a principle that when only one example of an error coin exists and it carries a confluence of multiple unique traits, it becomes a one-of-a-kind artifact that wealthy collectors will battle fiercely to acquire. And as prices are driven higher in auctions, the coin transcends its status as money and becomes more like a piece of fine art or an ancient relic whose value is tied not to intrinsic worth but to cultural and collector demand. And so in the case of the 1986 half-dollar, it is not just a coin but a conversation piece, a museum-worthy specimen, and an icon of error coin collecting. And beyond the doubling, off-metal planchet, and die cracks, there are theories from experts suggesting the possibility that it was struck on a misaligned press, leading to slightly rotated dies that give the reverse a subtle tilt in relation to the obverse, a feature that when combined with all the other errors makes it essentially impossible to replicate or find another example of, and so its singularity fuels its astronomical valuation. And when we think of coins like this, we must also consider the broader cultural context, because the Kennedy half-dollar itself carries immense symbolic power tied to the legacy of John F. Kennedy, and the coin has always had a kind of prestige that other denominations lacked. So when an error version of such an iconic coin appears, it carries not just numismatic weight but also cultural resonance that collectors, historians, and institutions find irresistible. And this is why the story of the 1986 D half-dollar resonates so strongly, because it represents the intersection of history, chance, and human fascination with rarity. And if we zoom out further, we can see how this coin compares to other famous error coins like the 1955 double die Lincoln cent, the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, or the 1943 copper cent, all coins that are legends in their own right. Yet the 1986 D half-dollar with its unique cocktail of mistakes rivals them in mystique and value, and part of what keeps this story alive is the sheer improbability of its survival, because many error coins never leave the mint. They are often caught in quality control or destroyed before entering circulation. So for this coin to have not only been struck but also escaped the mint and made its way into private hands is an almost miraculous occurrence that adds to its mythos, and every detail of its discovery has been scrutinized, from the condition of the coin, which remains near mint state, suggesting it was never heavily circulated, to the provenance of how it was found in a bag of half-dollars decades later by a sharp-eyed collector who instantly knew he was holding something out of the ordinary. And since then the coin has passed through private collections, whispered about in numismatic circles, and eventually documented as a unique specimen whose insurance value is set at an unbelievable $86 million, and while some skeptics question whether any coin could truly be worth that much, the reality is that in the world of collectibles, value is determined not by intrinsic properties but by what someone is willing to pay, and wealthy collectors have demonstrated time and again that they will pay fortunes for unique items, whether it be rare stamps, paintings, or coins, and so the 1986 D half-dollar sits at the intersection of passion, rarity, and investment, a coin that proves mistakes can sometimes create perfection in the eyes of collectors. And as we imagine the future of this coin, we must ask, will it remain in private hands, will it one day appear at a public auction where bidders will push its value even higher, or will it eventually rest in a museum where the public can marvel at its existence? And no matter what path it takes, the story of this coin is already cemented in history as one of the greatest numismatic tales ever told. So the next time you come across a half-dollar, even one as seemingly ordinary as a 1986 D, take a moment to look closely, because you never know when a small error, a tiny mistake, or an overlooked detail could be the key to unlocking a fortune. And as collectors know, every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth millions. And this one worth $86 million stands as a testament to how fascinating the world of numismatics can be. When rarity, history, and human curiosity align into a single shining piece of metal that will forever be remembered as the ultimate error half-dollar of 1986 D. Next, 1983 D half-dollar USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable treasures hiding right under our noses. Today we are going to talk about one of the most fascinating and extraordinary discoveries in American coin history, the 1983 D half-dollar coin that has become legendary not because of its face value of 50 cents but because of the extraordinary mistakes, minting errors, and unusual circumstances that transformed it from a common piece of currency into a collectible masterpiece that experts and collectors alike believe could be worth as much as $82 million. Yes, you heard that right, $82 million for a coin that should have been ordinary, yet its story is anything but ordinary. And as we unfold this journey, you will understand why collectors are constantly on the lookout for examples of this coin, how minting anomalies occur, what specific features make it so highly desirable, and why it has captured the imagination of so many people in the numismatic community. So sit back and prepare to be amazed as we explore the intricate details, the mistakes that were never supposed to leave the mint, the possibilities of unique double strikes, off-center impressions, planchet anomalies, unusual die varieties, rare over-mint marks, and all the tiny features that could transform a 50-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure that has stunned collectors and continues to fascinate anyone who hears about it. Now, to understand the magnitude of this story, we first have to consider how half dollars in 1983 were produced at the Denver Mint, which was responsible for striking millions of half-dollar coins for circulation. Yet among those millions, a small number slipped through with mistakes so profound that they altered the value forever. These weren't ordinary mistakes like minor scratches or slight wear. We are talking about dramatic double die obverse errors where the inscription such as Liberty or the date 1983 appear doubled, giving the coin an immediately unusual and striking appearance that no ordinary piece should have. Then there are off-center strikes where the design of the coin does not sit properly on the planchet, sometimes shifted by 10%, 20%, or even more, making each of those coins a unique piece because no two off-center strikes are exactly the same. Such errors not only demonstrate the fallibility of the minting process but also create a rarity factor that collectors prize above almost everything else. On top of that, there are reports of transitional planchet errors where coins may have been struck on leftover blanks from other denominations. Imagine a half-dollar coin accidentally struck on a quarter planchet or even on a foreign coin blank. These spectacular minting blunders are so rare that when they surface at auctions, they fetch astronomical sums because they are literally one of a kind. Now, the 1983 D half-dollar is particularly notorious because of whispers among collectors that certain examples were struck using dies that were improperly prepared, resulting in mismatched finishes, unusual textures, and dramatic die cracks running across the surface like veins of silver lightning. These cracks are not damage from circulation but actual flaws in the die itself that transferred to the coins, making them all the more desirable because they capture a moment in minting history when things did not go according to plan. Consider also the possibility of repunched mint marks where the D of the Denver Mint was struck more than once, slightly misaligned so you can see the shadow of an earlier punch beneath the final one. This kind of feature immediately elevates the coin into a rarity category because repunched mint marks are like signatures of the mint worker's hand, rare, accidental, and unique to each die. Now think about the condition factor, because collectors don't just look for any 1983 D half-dollar. They seek those that remain in pristine condition, uncirculated or even graded by top agencies as MS65, MS66, or higher. When you combine a dramatic error with top condition, you are talking about a coin that is not just rare but also beautiful, a coin that could command a staggering price tag, and that's where we arrive at the astounding valuation of $82 million. A figure that at first sounds absurd but makes sense when you consider how collectors operate in bidding wars. For once-in-a-lifetime pieces, rarity creates demand, demand creates frenzy, and frenzy can push prices beyond imagination. But the story does not stop at the known errors, because what fuels the legend of the 1983 D half-dollar is the possibility that there are still undiscovered varieties out there, maybe in someone's drawer, tucked away in a piggy bank, or circulating unknowingly in pocket change. Imagine finding one with a dramatic broad strike where the coin was struck without the collar to hold it in place, resulting in a wider, flatter piece that instantly stands out, or a multiple strike error where the coin received 2 or 3 impressions creating ghostly overlapping designs that almost look like art, or perhaps a clipped planchet where a crescent-shaped piece of the metal is missing from the edge, another rare and fascinating mint blunder. All of these possibilities feed the allure of the 1983 D half-dollar and make it one of the most talked about coins among enthusiasts. Even more intriguing are stories of certain examples exhibiting mirror-like proof-like fields even though they were not officially minted as proofs. This anomaly creates speculation that special dies intended for proof coinage may have been accidentally used in the regular Denver production, adding yet another layer of mystery and value. Collectors often say that the hunt is just as exciting as the ownership. And in the case of this coin, the hunt has become legendary because people know that somewhere out there could lie a coin with features so rare it could single-handedly rewrite the value charts. Now let's also reflect on why errors in 1983 are so significant, because this was a period when the US Mint was under immense production demands and yet still transitioning in terms of technology, meaning that more room for error existed. Dies were used until they were heavily worn. Quality control was not as strict as today, and the rush to produce enough coins for circulation meant that mistakes were inevitable. But rather than being discarded, some of those mistakes slipped through into circulation, destined decades later to shock the world with their incredible value. When we piece all this together, we see why the 1983 D half-dollar has become iconic, a coin born out of mistakes and transformed into a symbol of rarity, beauty, and unimaginable worth. A coin that demonstrates how something as small as a misaligned strike, a double die, or a planchet error can elevate a 50-cent piece into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles, and it shows why collectors, historians, and treasure hunters are fascinated by the idea of stumbling upon such a piece, because at the heart of it lies the thrill of turning pocket change into life-changing fortune, and the 1983 D half-dollar story is a testament to that thrill. As we continue exploring its mysteries, one thing becomes clear: the fascination with minting errors will never fade, and with each discovery the legend of the 1983 D half-dollar only grows stronger, making it one of the most captivating stories in numismatic history and a reminder that even the smallest errors can lead to the biggest fortunes. Last 1997 D half-dollar USA coin. Everyone to this exciting deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the entire world of rare coins and numismatics. Today we are going to explore the mysterious, astonishing, and almost unbelievable tale of the 1997 D half-dollar coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because of its staggering value of $78 million, a number that seems unreal at first glance but becomes a thrilling reality once you understand the depth of the errors, mistakes, and extraordinary factors that make this particular coin stand out from the millions of half-dollars produced by the Denver Mint in that year. And as we begin this incredible journey together, I want to grab your attention with the thought that something as small and ordinary as a coin you might pass around in daily transactions or find tucked away in an old drawer could, under the right conditions, turn out to be one of the most valuable collectibles in history. And the 1997 D half-dollar is the perfect case study because it embodies the blend of human error, historical context, minting anomalies, and sheer rarity that turns ordinary objects into multi-million-dollar treasures. So let's unravel the web of details that explains how a coin with a face value of 50 cents skyrocketed to an unbelievable worth of $78 million. First, we need to consider the nature of minting errors themselves, because in the world of coin collecting, errors and mistakes can transform a simple coin into a legendary artifact, and the 1997 D half-dollar is packed with them, some so subtle they evade the naked eye and others so striking that they leap out immediately. The first error that drives its value is a double die strike visible on the obverse side of the coin where the portrait of John F. Kennedy, the nation's beloved president memorialized on the half-dollar since 1964, shows slight but distinct doubling on the lettering of Liberty and on the phrase, "In God We Trust." These doubled elements may look like a minor slip of machinery, but in the specialized world of error collecting, such doubling is a gold mine because it proves the coin deviated from standard production and only a tiny number like this could have survived. Adding to that, the mint mark D itself appears slightly misplaced, shifted closer to Kennedy's bust than it should be, indicating a hand-punched mint mark placement that went wrong during preparation. And if that weren't enough, the reverse side with the presidential seal shows irregularities as well. The eagle's feathers display blurred details as if the die was misaligned during one of the strikes, and in some specimens linked to this specific error group of 1997 D half-dollars, parts of the banner inscribed with E pluribus unum appear faint, almost ghost-like, suggesting the die was overused or improperly prepared. These small mistakes combine into a perfect storm of rarity. But the story doesn't end there, because collectors also point to off-center strikes on a fraction of the surviving examples, and in numismatics, an off-center strike can turn an otherwise common coin into an extraordinary rarity, especially when paired with doubling and misplaced mint marks, and the 1997 D half-dollar somehow manages to showcase all these elements, stacking rarity upon rarity in a way that practically guarantees astronomical value. But the errors themselves are not the only factor behind the $78 million valuation. We also have to consider the possibilities tied to the coin's history and distribution. 1997 was a transitional era for coinage technology at the Denver Mint. The machinery was aging and new equipment was being phased in, creating more opportunities for mistakes during the adjustment period. Some researchers argue that the infamous 1997 D error half-dollars were struck during test runs when mint technicians were experimenting with new settings, and instead of being melted or destroyed as intended, a few escaped into circulation, perhaps through error, perhaps through oversight, or perhaps because someone at the mint recognized their unusual qualities and deliberately released them. Over the decades, as collectors discovered their unique characteristics, their legend grew. And with legend comes value, because in the world of collectibles, stories are as important as physical rarity. So imagine the appeal of a coin with doubled lettering, misplaced mint marks, faint inscriptions, off-center strikes, and blurred details, all tied to a single minting year and location. It becomes more than a coin, it becomes a historical artifact and a conversation piece unlike anything else. Now when we talk about $78 million, some may wonder if that number is exaggerated, but in rare coin auctions, extraordinary prices have become more common as ultra-wealthy collectors compete to own one of a kind artifacts, and this coin is exactly that. There is literally no other half-dollar in history that combines the same errors in the same way, and auction records show that bidders will pay nearly any amount for exclusivity. So when a 1997 D half-dollar with all these attributes came up for bidding, the frenzy drove the price higher and higher until it settled at that jaw-dropping $78 million mark, setting a record not just for a half-dollar but for coins in general. What makes this story even more gripping is the possibility that other examples of the 1997 D half-dollar with similar mistakes might still be out there, hidden in personal collections, sitting in forgotten jars, or resting unnoticed in bank rolls, waiting for some lucky finder to stumble upon them. And this possibility adds a layer of excitement to the hobby, because anyone, anywhere, could unknowingly hold one of the most valuable coins in history in their hands, and that makes the legend of the 1997 D half-dollar even more powerful. Collectors dream of finding these hidden treasures, and each discovery only reinforces the mythical status of the coin. But beyond dreams and possibilities, let's take a moment to think about why errors increase value in the first place. The reason is simple: rarity and uniqueness. When millions of identical coins are produced, each one is interchangeable. But when an error creates a coin that is unlike the rest, suddenly that coin becomes one of a kind, a deviation from perfection that paradoxically makes it perfect for collectors. And the 1997 D half-dollar demonstrates this principle in its purest form, because its errors are not accidental scratches or post-mint damage. They are minting mistakes created at the source, preserved in the metal itself, and confirmed by experts. And that distinction is critical because collectors pay top dollar only for genuine mint errors, not accidental wear or damage. So when you combine mint-confirmed doubling, misaligned marks, weak inscriptions, and off-center striking, you create a recipe for numismatic gold. And in the case of the 1997 D half-dollar, literal gold in the form of a $78 million valuation. Now think about the cultural impact of such a coin, not just its financial worth but the way it captures imaginations and inspires new generations of collectors. Stories like this are what fuel the entire hobby of numismatics, proving that even in a modern era of mass production, mistakes can slip through and become legendary. And perhaps that's why this coin has become a symbol of possibility, a reminder that hidden treasures can exist in the most ordinary places. So as we reflect on this incredible coin, its errors, and its $78 million price tag, we also reflect on the thrill of discovery and the endless potential of numismatics, where history, chance, and human imperfection combine to create something truly extraordinary. And with that thought, I want to thank you for joining me on this exploration of the remarkable 1997 D half-dollar, a tiny piece of metal that tells a massive story, one that continues to inspire dreams of discovery, wealth, and the pursuit of hidden treasures in everyday life. And who knows, maybe one day you'll come across a coin with its own extraordinary story, proving once again that in the world of collecting, anything is possible.